that with just a little change in perspective, everything changes. What once looked like a one-dimensional canvas all of a sudden becomes multi-dimensional, all of a sudden has so much depth to it. Where did that come from? How could we be looking at the same thing but seeing something so completely different? I mean, how are there so many different ways to see the same thing? How many different ways are there to see the same thing? I mean, are we even seeing the same thing if it's so different? Perception is one of those things in the universe that are complex but deceivingly so. It seems so simple, like there's just a world and we're just perceiving it. That's simple, right? It seems like there's just one way to see things because we're only seeing things one way. But if that were really true, then how could everybody be seeing so many different things? What's the truth? We often say that we tell things the way that they are, but what is the way that it is actually? Because all we have is the way that it is to us. And if it's different to everybody, then how could that be the way that it is independent of us? Well, consider for a second that in quantum physics, everything is a wave of possibilities until it is an observed phenomenon by an observer. Before that, it doesn't actually exist. John Wheeler once said that we live in a participatory universe. And what I take that to mean is that we're actually participating in creating the universe because we are it. Every single thing that exists within the scope of this universe exists for a purpose. And the purpose of humanity is to perceive the universe into existence. That every single thing we perceive contributes to the expansion of whatever it is that we're perceiving in the universe. That every time we take a deep breath, we expand the possibility of others doing the same. Every time we choose to see through the eyes of beauty, every time we choose to respond with kindness and compassion and love in the world, we expand on the possibility for others to be the same way. Maybe. Just maybe. As human beings, we have a unique capacity to perceive ourselves, not just physically, but conceptually as well. Because we have this structure of perception, we begin to naturally build this duality between the perceiver and the one who is being perceived. We often call this self-awareness. And over time, that continues to expand, and it expands into the perceptions of others into us and what we think about what others think of us, whether it's society, family, community. And then at some point we start to ask ourselves, is that who we really are? It's so easy to try to find who we are in our accomplishments, in our failures, in our past, in our surroundings, in our circumstances, in our opinions, in our hobbies, in our thoughts, in our skills, in our abilities, in our talents. But those things, they're all external, they're fleeting. Even our thoughts change all the time, so why would we identify with them? I mean, just like perception of reality, if there are infinite different ways to perceive the same thing, then how can we be so sure that the way that we have been seeing that thing is the way that it really is, even if it's us? I mean, especially if it's us, because, really there is no one way that it is, but we're so convinced that there is one way that we are. But in the times when we're the only ones looking, this is the hardest, because it's not only that we think we're a certain ways, we've conditioned ourselves to respond to life a certain way. And even if we want to believe that we're greater than what we are, it's like these conditions continue to present themselves, and then if we don't meet them with the proper response, it can be defeating. Like, how did we just fall to that again? Yet we also have these moments where we challenge ourselves and we start to break through. We actually break through those old ideas of ourselves. We break through the old limiting perceptions. In those spaces, we're not limited to what we thought we were. We're experiencing divine intervention. We're experiencing this process of exponential growth, like we're tapping into some infinite potentiality of energy that was always there, but it was just hidden from us in plain sight. And then that gets tucked away as a memory. And then depending on the way that we perceive ourselves before, we either identify ourselves with the continued failures or we identify ourselves with that one breakthrough, but neither of those things are truly us either. We experience certain things in life that expand our perception of ourselves and make us realize, and forgive me because I'm going to go to that old meme of real eyes realize real lies. And the way that we think is usually not through real eyes, it's through the eyes of old perception. I mean, what if we were so powerful that when we tell ourselves lies about ourselves and our self-perception, we're actually making the lies real, which is why they're called real lies. You know, we often look at ourselves and think that there's something wrong with us or that there's something broken, but we never really consider that it's not the thing that we're looking at that's broken. It's actually the thing that we're using to look at ourselves through that's broken, because it's highlighting the negativity, because it's highlighting the things that we think are wrong with us. Now, it's not to say that we can't change. It's not to say that we can't grow. It's not to say that there's such a thing as constructive criticism within our self-perception that allows us to become the greatest version of ourselves. But it's not through negativity that we get to expand in that way. It's through love. It's through compassion. And if we can see ourselves through that lens of love, compassion, and wanting to give ourselves the experience of the greatest version of life through the greatest version of us, then we get to actually experience everything in that way, because we see that we are the love and we always have been. Imagine this, if you will, that in the beginning there was just one bright light and it contained everything in it, but it was only just one expression of light. And this light was great, this light was amazing, and it wanted to experience itself completely and see what could be possible within itself. So the light created a way for it to separate itself so that it could experience every single different aspect of what was inside of it. It created a prism, and it went through the prism. And on the other side of this prism was a rainbow. It was separated into 7 different colors, and within those 7 different colors, there was an infinite amount of different expressions of itself that were combinations of those colors. And every single different color combination is absolutely beautiful, and it's completely unique in its own way, and it's the only expression of itself that will ever exist, because it's the only expression of itself that can exist. Some of them are powerful, some of them are strong, some of them are wise, some of them are beautiful, some of them are just brilliant, but they're all different, they're all unique, they're all exactly the way they're supposed to be, they're all perfect, because they're all exactly the way that they are. And the whole point of this entire experiment was for the original light to see all of the different ways that it could express itself, to see all of the different possible perspectives of itself and all of the different possible perspectives of the different possible perspectives of itself. Now, imagine for just a moment, put aside any belief systems that you have, and just imagine that you are one of those unique expressions of light. Let me remind you that the separation was never actually a real separation. When the original light goes through the prism, it doesn't actually get separated. The separation is an illusion. The separation isn't real. This whole time we've been going through everything thinking that we're separate when we're not, and all we had to do the whole time was to go deep enough within ourselves that we pop out on the other side and see it for ourselves. This whole time we were made of the exact same thing. We are the original light. Go deep enough within yourself and you'll see it within yourself, and then you'll look outside in the world and you'll see it in everyone. Yes, there's a layer of distortion, but of course there is. That's the only way it can exist here. All anyone wants is to experience that original divine expression of love that we all are.